In my previous life, I had by chance rescued Serafina Sterling, a kidnapped socialite from London's upper crust. I worked 4 shifts a day, dedicating every ounce of my energy to raising her like a pampered princess. However, after her family reclaimed her, she commanded everyone never to speak of that humiliating past. Lord Sterling, Serafina's grandfather, appreciative of my actions, asked what I desired. Back then, I earnestly replied, I wish to marry Serafina. I want to protect her forever. Little did I know that from the moment she returned to the Sterlings, Serafina had fallen for Julian, another affluent aristocrat. After our marriage, she treated me with absolute frigidity, even wiping her hand with a silk cloth immediately after touching mine. Later, she became pregnant to avoid being branded an unfaithful wife and to be with him legally. Serafina pushed me off a skyscraper herself. Before I perished, she remarked indifferently, Julian was always my first choice. The placeholder could have been anyone. Arthur, how could a common pauper like you ever deserve to be my husband? Then I opened my eyes back on the day Lord Sterling asked what I wanted. This time, I discarded my mindless dreams and booked a flight out of London for the following week. Composedly, I told Lord Sterling, I would like a sum of money, and then I will leave London to seek the life I want for myself. Are you truly willing to leave Serafina? Hearing my response, Lord Sterling knit his brows, his eyes filled with skepticism. Everyone knew how much I adored Serafina. They all presumed I would use the fact I saved her life as leverage to compel her to marry me. In my past life, that is exactly what I did, and what I received in return was frostiness, contempt, and ultimately death. The sensation of striking the pavement, my body splintering, is still painfully vivid. Even the look of relief in Serafina's eyes as she shoved me is etched in my mind. Reborn, I do not want to chase futile dreams anymore. I took a deep breath, offered a calm smile, and looked at Lord Sterling. Serafina and I are worlds apart. She deserves better. I also want to pursue my own life. Please, Lord Sterling, grant me this. Lord Sterling, sitting across from me, was silent for a long moment before sighing and nodding. You are right. The disparity in your statuses is too great. It would not lead to happiness. The Sterlings are grateful you saved her life and put so much effort into raising her so well. I will give you whatever amount you ask for. He looked up at me. Arthur, you do not actually have to leave London. I would certainly help pave the way for your future here. Hearing this, I smiled and shook my head, lowering my gaze and murmuring, a bird needs open skies to fly. I want to experience a life that does not revolve around Serafina. Lord Sterling, please do not tell her I am leaving just yet. She has just taken over the firm and is very busy. I do not want her distracted by this. Leaving the Sterling estate, dusk was settling just as I pulled open the car door. My phone rang in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw it was Serafina. In my past life, around this time, she and Julian had already developed feelings for each other, but I had used the life-saving favor to have Lord Sterling force her to marry me. After the wedding, lost in my own bliss, I did not notice anything until I walked in on Serafina and Julian kissing passionately. Only then did I realize someone else already occupied her heart. Snapping back to the present, I answered the call. Before I could speak, Serafina's enraged voice erupted from the other end. Arthur, I told you to bring that file over. Are you dead? Look how long it has been. You cannot even handle such a simple task. What use are you? Her screaming reminded me I was supposed to deliver a document to her. I took a breath. I forgot. If this were before, I would have groveled, apologized profusely, and rushed it over, but now I suddenly did not want to. Serafina on the other end was silent for a long time, as if she could not process it. Finally, she muttered, You forgot? That idiot. Whatever. Make dinner. I am coming back soon. With that, Serafina hung up without giving me a chance to reply. I stared at the disconnected call screen, an undeniable pang of bitterness rising within me, tears welling in my eyes. The next second, I quickly opened a booking app. I booked a one-way ticket overseas for the following week. 5 years ago, living in a small village, I accidentally saved Serafina after she had been kidnapped and fallen off a ridge. She was severely injured and had lost all memory of who she was or what had happened. I spent all my money nursing her back to health. After reporting it, the police told me they could not find any information about her identity and asked me to look after her for the time being. That turned into 5 years. Once Serafina recovered, she revealed a completely different side. She was incredibly smart, and her beauty was simply breathtaking. The people in town used to tease me. Looks like Arthur found himself a wife. I was too shy to argue, but deep down, I felt happy. As an orphan who grew up relying on the kindness of neighbors, Serafina's arrival changed my life in ways I had not realized. I gradually got used to having her around, so I dropped out of school and started working 4 jobs a day to support Serafina's education, making sure she had good clothes and food. Over 5 years, I raised her into a beloved, cherished young woman. Serafina was diligent, too. She did well in her studies and was very good to me. She would secretly work part-time because she felt bad about how hard I worked, using the money she earned to buy me new clothes I could not afford myself. Day after day, during the cold winters, she would come to meet me after my shift. After 5 years of this mutual care and affection, Serafina's family found her. That is when I understood why the police could not find her identity back then. She was a high-profile heiress from London's elite, carefully protected by her family from public knowledge since childhood. The day we left the small village, Serafina gently held my hand. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. "Arthur, come with me. From now on, it is my turn to take care of you." When I pushed open the door, faint light illuminated the living room. Serafina, wearing an obviously expensive custom-made little black dress, sat on the sofa with a dark expression. Hearing the door open, she slowly turned her head, her voice laced with ice. "Where were you? Did I not tell you to stay home?" I stood frozen for a long moment, then wordlessly flipped on the main light. I answered her question nonchalantly. Lord Sterling had something to ask me, so I went back to the estate. Then I walked into the kitchen, expertly tied on an apron, and started cooking. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Serafina instantly flew into a rage, storming into the kitchen. "Arthur, are you trying to start something? What kind of attitude is that?" I do not know when it started, but her words towards me were always barbed. In my past life, I just assumed she was stressed from taking over the company, but now I knew. Because the love was gone, there was naturally no need for politeness. A wave of bitterness washed over me. I took a deep breath, put down the knife, and turned to face Serafina. "What kind of attitude do you want me to have?" "Serafina, I do not owe you anything." Hearing this, her hands clenched tightly at her sides, knuckles cracking, her eyes bloodshot, glared at me as she sneered. "Don't owe me? Arthur, if it were not for me, would you be living in such a nice house, driving such a nice car? Don't forget. Oh, you were just an orphan from a small village. The more familiar someone is, the better they know where to stick the knife for maximum pain." My heart shattered into pieces, but I had to hold back the tears. After a long pause, Serafina seemed to realize what she had said. Her anger subsided, and just as she was about to speak, her phone rang. As soon as she pulled it out of her pocket, I saw the name Julian on the screen. Compared to her explosive anger towards me, Serafina's tone with him could only be described as gentle as water. "Julian, do not worry. I will be right over to pick you up. Just stay put in the car, okay?" Serafina said anxiously, leaving the kitchen without even glancing back at me. Not until the door clicked shut did I stumble and collapse onto the cold floor, tears finally escaping uncontrollably, streaming down my face. Sobbing, I clutched the fabric over my left chest, whispering painfully, "Serafina, every time you say that name, are you thinking of me, Arthur, or him, Julian?" That night Serafina did not come home. The next day, I saw the trending news, pictures of her being carried into a villa by Julian. Everyone was saying that Serafina Sterling, the London heiress, and Julian, the wealthy socialite, were getting close. A match made in heaven finally coming together. Yes, they belonged to the same world. To Serafina, I was just an outsider who happened to save her life. It only took 3 days to prepare my documents for going abroad. I even paid a hefty fee to enroll in a study program, planning to study overseas for a few years. Serafina was right. Without her, I would never have lived the life I had now, so we did not owe each other anything. Since coming to London, Lord Sterling had been quite good to me. Since I was leaving and had taken such a large sum from him, I thought I would not see him again, so I decided to buy him a small gift. As I pushed open the door to a tie shop, I saw Serafina inside fitting a tie on Julian. Her face was full of smiles as she carefully adjusted it for him. Their eyes lingered on each other, filled with an unspoken intimacy. Just then Serafina noticed me. Her smiling face instantly turned gloomy. She frowned and walked towards me, displeased. "Are you following me?" My heart tightened. I was about to explain when Julian spoke first, smoothly taking Serafina's hand. "You must be Mr. Arthur, the benefactor who saved Serafina." Seeing them like this, I could not remain calm. My reply inevitably sounded a bit sharp. "What if I am?" "Arthur, watch your tone." As soon as I finished speaking, Serafina shouted. Hearing this, I looked at her and gave a cold smile. Did I say something wrong? Julian quickly stepped in to smooth things over. He smiled gently and tugged at the corner of Serafina's dress. "Come on, Serafina, why get angry over someone so low class?" He then looked at me contemptuously. "Mr. Arthur, it seems living with the Sterlings for a few days has made you forget your place. Don't forget, if you had not saved Serafina, you would not even have the right to stand here talking to me in your entire life." Everyone seemed to think it was my honor to have saved Serafina, even Serafina herself. Thinking this, I lowered my gaze and scoffed coldly, my tone flat. If I could do it over, I would rather have never saved her. "Arthur," Serafina roared, her eyes looking like she wanted to devour me. She gritted her teeth. "Say that again if you dare." I looked up at her, tears blurring my vision, my voice hoarse. "Serafina, if I could, I would rather have never saved you." This time she did not speak, just looked at me with a complex expression for a long time. Finally, she stormed out. Julian immediately moved to follow her, but as he passed me, he abruptly stopped, turned his head, and grinned triumphantly. "By the way, there is some good news I think I should share with Mr. Arthur. Serafina is pregnant." Those two words instantly froze the blood in my veins. Something that happened years later in my past life had apparently moved up. Seeing my stunned expression, Julian smirked with satisfaction and left. The night before I left, Serafina unexpectedly called me. She said she wanted to talk things over properly. I figured she wanted to tell me about the pregnancy or perhaps their wedding plans, but whatever it was, it did not matter anymore. When she arrived, her eyes immediately fell on the packed suitcase I had placed by the entrance. Serafina paused, looking puzzled. "Where are you going?" I glanced blandly at the luggage and for the first time lied to her. "Remember Mrs. Gable who lived next door to us? She is sick and said she misses me, asked me to go back and visit." "When are you leaving?" Serafina pressed urgently. I hesitated for a moment, then instinctively continued the lie. "Tomorrow night." Hearing this, Serafina nodded and said to herself, "Mrs. Gable was always kind to me too. I will go back with you tomorrow night to see her." I did not answer. Neither of us spoke, the silence becoming strangely awkward. Finally, Serafina broke the tension. She looked at me hesitantly several times before pulling a velvet box from her pocket. The moment she opened it, a stunning diamond ring the size of a pigeon's egg caught my eye. My heart skipped a beat. I could not help the pang of bitterness, thinking, are she and Julian really getting married? "Is it beautiful?" Serafina asked. Hearing her, I snapped back to reality and looked up. "It's okay." She fell silent, pursing her lips, looking somewhat disappointed. "Arthur, I know I have been really irritable lately and said a lot of hurtful things, but I truly did not mean it." Serafina suddenly started apologizing. I smiled faintly, thinking she at least had the decency to apologize for everything she had done before we parted ways. "It's okay. It's all in the past," I replied indifferently. Hearing this, Serafina's eyes lit up. She unexpectedly grabbed my hand. "Really? You're really not angry?" I did not know why she was acting like this. Just as I was about to speak, the phone in my pocket vibrated. I gently pushed Serafina away, took it out, and saw a message from the real estate agent I had contacted earlier. "Mr. Arthur, the rental arrangements you requested have been finalized. The landlord will contact you upon your arrival." I turned off the screen and looked back at Serafina. This was truly goodbye. So I took a deep breath and smiled at her, something I had not done in a long time. "Yes, I am not angry." Hearing this, Serafina seemed to let out a huge sigh of relief and reached for my hand again. But this time, I instinctively stepped back. She noticed the subtle movement, and her smile visibly froze. "Arthur, are you really not upset with me?" "Actually, there is a lot I have always wanted to tell you." "Serafina, let's talk when I get back." I interrupted her, feeling inexplicably tired. She opened her mouth, but ultimately just nodded. Yes, we have plenty of time. We can talk after visiting Mrs. Gable. Claiming I was tired and wanted to sleep, I politely asked her to leave. As she was going, Serafina kept looking back at me, pausing at the door to press the ring into my hand. Hold on to this for me. I will come pick you up after work tomorrow, and we will go see Mrs. Gable together. I watched her with a silent smile. The second the door closed, I tossed the ring into the trash without hesitation. Dragging my suitcase and grabbing my car keys, I headed for the airport. This time, it was really over. 5 years later, the plane landed in New York City. As soon as I walked out of the terminal, I spotted her from afar. Beatrice, leaning against a black Bentley by the roadside, a beautiful woman with a gentle smile. Clearly, Beatrice saw me too. She waved then strode over to me. Long time no see, Arthur. I returned her smile. Fancy the great director Beatrice picking me up personally. Beatrice did not answer immediately, instead taking my suitcase and ushering me into the car. She said, "Everyone is waiting for you. They are all excited to meet the famous late-blooming screenwriter." After leaving London 5 years ago, I flew to the US to study. I stumbled into screenwriting and fell completely in love with it. Starting from knowing nothing to being able to write a solid script independently, and then dedicating myself to the profession. It only took me 5 years to make a name for myself. Many people were curious about how this screenwriter, who started late, had managed it. Coincidentally, Beatrice had a pretty good project she was working on. She contacted me about collaborating, and remembering her help when I was abroad, I agreed without much thought and returned to New York. On the way to the welcome dinner, I watched the familiar streetscapes receding outside the window and could not help feeling emotional. I thought I would never return to this place, yet here I was again. "How long are you planning to stay this time?" Beatrice asked. Without much thought, I answered truthfully. "I will leave once your movie wraps up. The weather in Austin should be nice then. I will go gather some inspiration." Beatrice nodded knowingly. We fell silent again. Soon we arrived at the venue for the welcome dinner. We went upstairs side by side. Pushing open the private room door, we saw the colleagues who had been waiting. What surprised me most was seeing someone I thought I would never meet again in this lifetime. Serafina. "Everyone, let me introduce you. This is the renowned screenwriter Silas, whose real name is Arthur," Beatrice announced. As her voice faded, applause filled the room. Several people looked at me, whispering among themselves. I did not expect such a famous screenwriter to be so young. He looks like a wet behind Thieves kid. Don't say that. His abilities are well known in the industry. I heard director Beatrice went through a lot of trouble to get him back here. Looks like their relationship is pretty special. These murmurs did not affect me. I pulled my gaze away from Serafina and offered a calm smile to the group. "Please just call me Arthur. I look forward to working with all of you." After I spoke, Beatrice gestured for me to sit down. But from the moment I entered the room, I felt an intense gaze fixed on me. It was obvious who it belonged to. As soon as I sat, Beatrice introduced Serafina to me. "Arthur, this is the main investor for the film, Miss Serafina Sterling." Then she looked at Serafina. "Miss Sterling, this is my friend Arthur." "I never heard you mention having a friend like this before," Serafina said, her voice low and tinged with displeasure. Beatrice raised an eyebrow. "Well, he is not just any friend. Plus, Arthur does not live in New York, so it is normal you have not met Miss Sterling." "Not just any friend." Serafina repeated the word slowly, then let out a cold laugh. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, everyone else tactfully quieted down. I poured myself a full glass of wine, stood up abruptly, and looked at Serafina. "Miss Sterling, thank you for investing in Azure Peaks. Beatrice and I are indeed good friends. Let this drink be a toast to the movie's success." With that, I tilted my head back and started downing the strong liquor. But this action made both Beatrice and Serafina jump to their feet simultaneously, frowning at me. Before the glass was empty, Beatrice snatched it from my hand. Amidst everyone's surprised looks, she finished the rest in one go, then turned to me with a smile. "Your stomach cannot handle drinking like that. Don't try to be tough." A familiar scene flashed in my mind. The first time Beatrice and I met was 3 years ago when I was just starting out. It was a similar networking event, and the director at the time insisted I drink a full glass of hard liquor. After hesitating, unable to think of a reason to refuse, I braced myself and raised the glass. Suddenly, a slender, fair hand snatched the glass away. Before I could react, Beatrice had downed the drink. Then she smiled at the director and said, "Don't make things hard for the newcomer." Beatrice and I held each other's gaze for a long moment before I finally came back to myself, only to meet Serafina's indescribable expression. Serafina let out a cold scoff, raised her hand, and began to clap slowly. When she spoke again, her tone was dripping with sarcasm. Director Beatrice and Mr. Arthur really are unusually close, even sharing the same glass. Hearing this, Beatrice was about to speak, but I cut her off. "I just got off a plane after more than 10 hours. I am quite tired, so please excuse me for not staying longer today. We will have plenty of opportunities to meet in the future. Enjoy yourselves tonight, everyone. It's on me." With that, I stood up to leave, not giving Serafina even a single glance. Beatrice looked at me with concern, leaning closer. "Are you okay? Let me take you back." I shook my head. "No need. I can get back myself." "Can you find your way back alone?" Beatrice asked with a slight smile. "Come on." I needed to head back and deal with some things anyway. My stay in New York would not be long, so I initially planned to stay in a hotel, but Beatrice insisted she had several apartments in the same complex just sitting empty and invited me to stay in one of hers. After refusing several times to her firm insistence, I stopped being polite and accepted. Beatrice said goodbye to everyone present and left with me. But just as we reached the underground parking garage, Serafina called out from behind us, "Arthur, wait." Both Beatrice and I stopped. Beatrice instinctively shielded me, smiling at Serafina. "Miss Sterling, do you need something else from Arthur? It is quite late, though. If there is business, perhaps we can discuss it at the studio next time." But Serafina completely ignored her, walked around Beatrice, and grabbed my arm, her eyes red-rimmed. "These 5 years, where did you go? Do you know back then? Miss Sterling, please have some self-respect." I interrupted Serafina, pulling my arm free and stepping back. A flicker of shock and hurt crossed Serafina's eyes. She repeated my words. "Miss Sterling, please have some self-respect? Arthur, you never used to call me that." I looked at her emotionlessly and replied coolly, "You said it yourself. That was the past. Of course, it is different now. If there is nothing else, please do not block the way. I need to go rest." Seeing I was about to leave, she quickly grabbed me again, her tone suddenly pleading. "Don't go, Arthur. I have so much I want to ask you, so much I want to tell you." This time, before I could answer, Beatrice strode forward and pulled Serafina's hand off me. "Miss Sterling, Arthur is tired. Please stop harassing him. Whatever it is, let us talk next time. We are going home now." After saying this, Beatrice started leading me away. Serafina let out a cold snort, her gaze sharp as she looked between us. "You are going home? You live together?" Beatrice nodded. "Yes, we live in the same place. I do not care what past you had with Arthur, but right now he is exhausted and needs rest, so stop bothering him." With that final word, Beatrice gave Serafina no further chance and led me away. On the way back, Beatrice and I sat in the back seat. Neither of us spoke first, but I could feel she had many questions, so I told her the story of Serafina and me. Her frown deepened as she listened. We were not really boyfriend and girlfriend, just two people who supported each other through a difficult time, I concluded. Then I turned to Beatrice and asked jokingly, "But are you not afraid she will pull her investment after you talk to her like that?" Beatrice snapped back to reality and smiled casually. "Arthur, now I am the one who does not want to continue the collaboration. Pulling investment is fine. I can cover it myself." Hearing this, I chuckled. "Quite impressive, Director Beatrice. Don't blame me if she really does pull out." Beatrice smiled helplessly and reached over to playfully ruffle my hair. "No way. Who else would I blame but you?" The atmosphere was far more lighthearted than I expected, which was typical of how Beatrice and I had interacted over the past 3 years, relaxed and comfortable, without any burden. Beatrice had arranged my accommodation perfectly, even thoughtfully making the bed for me. I live just upstairs. Call me if you need anything. The housekeeper keeps this place clean, but the bed was not made. I will have someone come tidy up properly tomorrow. Finishing making the bed, Beatrice turned back and smiled at me. "Just make do for tonight." Looking at the well-kept room, I smiled and nodded. "Okay, thank you, Director Beatrice, for personally making my bed. I am truly grateful. You and your smooth talk." After tidying everything, Beatrice prepared to leave for her own rest. After giving me a string of reminders, she suddenly threw herself into my arms. I froze, my hands hovering in the air, hesitant to embrace her, but she hugged me tighter, resting her head on my chest and whispering, "Arthur, long time no see." Soon I threw myself into filming, spending all day at the studio refining the script and heading home with Beatrice after work. Her cooking was excellent, and in just a few days, I had gained several pounds. One day, as we were leaving work side by side, Beatrice turned her head with a smile. "What is for dinner tonight? Didn't you want sweet and sour ribs last time?" "Enough, Beatrice. Can't you see how fat I've gotten?" As we were joking, Serafina suddenly appeared out of nowhere, blocking our path. She had actually been coming to the set frequently these past few days, always seeming like she wanted to say something but hesitating. I had intentionally avoided her, leaving her no opportunity. "Miss Sterling, if you are worried about the filming progress or quality, you can still withdraw your investment now. I will not charge you a penalty," Beatrice said curtly. But Serafina ignored her again, walking straight up to me and asking somewhat softly, "Arthur, I would like to invite you to dinner. There is a lot I want to talk to you about." I knew if I did not agree, she would continue to pester me, so I sighed resignedly, nodded, and then looked at Beatrice. "You head back first. I need to talk with her." "Arthur," Beatrice started to say something but ultimately held back, saying coolly, "I will wait for you to come back for dinner." She shot Serafina a glare and strode away. Once Beatrice's figure disappeared completely, I turned back to Serafina. "Whatever it is, Miss Sterling, you can say it here, though I do not really think there is anything left for us to talk about." Faced with my resolute attitude, Serafina gave a bitter smile. "You lied to me. You promised we would talk properly when you got back, but when I went to find you that day, you were gone. I thought you went back to see Mrs. Gable without telling me. I drove all night back to the small village to find you, but Mrs. Gable said you had not been back at all." "Arthur, do you know how desperate I felt at that moment?" Seeing her pained expression, I felt nothing inside except maybe a little anticipation for whether Beatrice would make those sweet and sour ribs. "I do not know, and I do not want to know. Serafina, since you chose Julian, I wished you well, which is why I chose to leave." I paused, shrugging. "Besides, we never really had a relationship." "Arthur," she yelled at that, her eyes already incredibly red. "How can you say we had no relationship? You saved me. You worked 4 jobs a day to support me. You haunted my dreams, and now you say none of it matters? Do you even have a conscience?" Hearing this, I could not help but laugh, looking at Serafina with a puzzled frown. "Shouldn't I be asking you that, Serafina? Do you have a conscience? Have you really forgotten all the things you said to me?" My counter-question left her speechless. She opened and closed her mouth several times in agitation before finally saying, "Arthur, believe it or not, I truly know I was wrong. I had a dream. In the dream, you used saving my life to force my father to let me marry you. I was happy at first until I met Julian through work and our relationship became complicated. Then you misunderstood our relationship, and somehow we drifted apart. I started treating you badly and even caused your death. Afterward, I was filled with regret, developed severe mental illness, and eventually killed myself to follow you. But when I opened my eyes, I was back 2 days before you left. That is why I tried desperately to keep you." As she spoke, she hastily pulled out a velvet box from her pocket. Inside was the very diamond ring I had thrown away years ago. Serafina said urgently, "I originally planned to propose to you. I wanted to make up for how I hurt you in the past, but you left without a word. I searched for you for 5 whole years." Listening to her words, my first reaction was that Serafina had also been reborn. Thinking this, I suddenly understood why she contacted me the night before I left, and why she seemed like a completely different person. I took a deep breath. "But you were already pregnant. As the child's mother, could you really just casually switch his father?" "Arthur, you've wronged me." Serafina suddenly cut me off, rushing to explain. "I wasn't pregnant. I swear on my life that was just a lie Julian made up back then to make you give up." "Arthur, believe me." Judging by Serafina's expression, she wasn't lying. But in the previous life, she did develop feelings for Julian. It was just that this time she was reborn before anything significant could happen between them. I suddenly felt a sense of disorientation, thinking fate was playing tricks. But what happened, happened. From the moment I decided to leave, I never intended to look back, and I didn't plan on telling Serafina that I had also been reborn. So I gave a cold smile. That's quite a story. But even so, we can't go back. Serafina, stop disturbing the peaceful life I have now. After saying this, I turned to leave. Unexpectedly, she let out 2 low laughs, then asked dejectedly, "Are you being so cold to me because of Beatrice?" Hearing this, I stopped but didn't turn around. Even if it wasn't because of her, I would still be this cold to you because of someone else in the future. Because the Arthur who was warm to you, you already lost him. As I pushed open the door to the apartment, I saw Beatrice in the kitchen wearing an apron, busy cooking. Dinner was already set on the table. Hearing the noise, she turned around and gave me a faint smile. "Wash your hands. Time to eat." I knew Beatrice was angry about what happened earlier, so I walked into the kitchen and deliberately washed my hands beside her for a long time. Beatrice didn't look at me the entire time, still focused on her cooking. After washing my hands, I just stood there watching her. She finally acknowledged me, saying, "Go wait outside. It's smoky in here." "Beatrice, are you angry?" The unexpected question made her freeze. Even her stirring paused. After a moment, "Arthur, do I have the right or the status to be angry right now?" There was a strange sadness in her voice when she asked that. In the 3 years I'd known her, Beatrice had always been sunny and cheerful. Being with her these past 3 years brought me a lot of unexpected joy. Our relationship had been somewhat ambiguous for a long time, but back then I needed to study to build my own life, and she was also busy forging her path, so we tacitly avoided the subject. Until this time, when Beatrice proactively invited me back to New York to work on Azure Peaks. Honestly, when I first heard her invitation, I was hesitant. I was afraid we would end up just being ordinary friends. But ultimately, courage won over fear. I thought I should be by her side. So before Beatrice could react, I stepped forward, cupped her face in my hands, leaned down slightly, and kissed her. "Beatrice, of course you have that right." I could feel her body trembling slightly, then stiffening. After a long moment, she dropped the spatula she was holding, turned off the stove, and then hugged me tightly, standing on her toes to deepen the kiss. Moving from gentle to passionate, Beatrice was much shorter than me, so with a simple turn, I easily lifted her onto the kitchen island. One of her hands rested on my chest, the other hooked around my neck. The air crackled with electric chemistry. We were like fish stranded on a beach, gasping for air. Not until I placed her on the soft mattress, even in the dim light, could I clearly see the unconcealed desire in Beatrice's eyes. Like exploring a precious treasure, I gently caressed her face, then lowered my head for a soft kiss on the corner of her lips. She didn't answer directly, but tilting her neck up to kiss me again was the best answer possible. Sensing I was awake, Beatrice walked in wearing her pajamas. From the moment she saw me, the smile never left her lips. She sat on the edge of the bed, leaned over, and kissed me. "Want to keep sleeping or eat something?" "Let's eat." I returned the kiss, got dressed, and took her hand as we walked out of the bedroom. The food she had reheated was on the table, including the sweet and sour ribs I had been craving for so long. The happiness of that moment was indescribable. Since confirming our relationship, Beatrice and I stopped hiding it at the studio. Soon everyone knew we were dating, including Serafina. "Arthur, tell me they're lying." She burst through the door of my break room while I was revising the script. Her sudden entrance shattered my train of thought, and a surge of irritation rose within me. I put down the script and frowned at Serafina. "Didn't anyone teach you to knock before entering?" Serafina fell silent, just looking at me, waiting for me to deny my relationship with Beatrice. But I disappointed her. I looked up at her and said calmly, "They weren't lying. Beatrice and I are together. We'll let you know when we get married. Miss Sterling, maybe you can come and give a wedding gift." My indifferent attitude thoroughly enraged Serafina. She strode towards me, gripping my shoulders tightly, asking frantically and angrily, "Are you still holding a grudge against me for what happened before? Are you still acting out because of those things? But Julian and I really have nothing going on. Arthur, the person I've loved from the beginning has always been you. I will never forget that you saved my life, nor will I forget the 5 years we lived together in that small village. We were each other's everything. How did we become strangers?" As she spoke the last words, a scalding tear fell onto my face. Serafina looked at my neck with empty, despairing eyes. There was an unusual red mark there. Her pupils contracted sharply. She raised her hand and tried to rub it vigorously, but it only got redder, not disappearing. Realizing what it was, Serafina's hand fell limply. You too. I couldn't stand it anymore. I pushed her away forcefully and stood up abruptly. Serafina, since returning to London, you forbade anyone from mentioning our past. I personally heard you tell those friends that those 5 years were the most humiliating time of your life. Later, you and the people around you repeatedly reminded me that I only have the life I have today because I saved you. Don't forget, you said I was just an orphan from a small village, that without you I would never have become who I am today. No, that's not true. She wanted to refute it, but she couldn't find the words. I took a deep breath, feeling weary. It's true that without the Sterling's generosity, I wouldn't have the life I have now, but I saved your life, so we're even. I don't want to be even with you. Serafina shouted, tears streaming down her face, stepping forward again to grab my hand. Seeing this, I quickly stepped back. Don't come closer, Serafina. I know the dream you mentioned is because you were reborn, because I was too. Hearing this, she stopped abruptly, looking at me in disbelief. It's precisely because everything I experienced in my past life, the horrific images of my death, still frequently appear in my dreams that I can't forget what I truly went through. Heaven gave me a second chance, and I don't want to get entangled in meaningless, toxic relationships again. I'm doing very well now, very happy. I hope to protect this happiness from being disturbed, which is why I never told you about being reborn. Now you know why I left you. I hope you can respect my decision. I took another deep breath and looked up at her. So please stop bothering me. In the end, Serafina left without saying another word. I thought we probably wouldn't see each other again, but I never expected to hear news of her suicide attempt that very night. They said when the paramedics arrived her body was already losing warmth. Serafina had submerged herself in the bathtub, the cuts on both wrists deep enough to expose bone. Clearly she had been determined to die. Luckily, her housekeeper found her in time, saving her life. Beatrice asked if I wanted to go see her. I was silent for a moment, then smiled at her. Director Beatrice, you're being so generous. Maybe I should just get back together with Serafina, have 2 girlfriends. Hearing this, Beatrice chuckled and snuggled into my arms. I'm not generous at all. The following summer, Beatrice and I held our wedding. She even thoughtfully invited the folks from the small village who had once taken care of me, because she said, I want everyone who knows us to witness our happiness. Some people might use my most sensitive past to stab me deeply, while others cherish that past, vowing to treat me well for a lifetime. I don't know what kind of ending truly counts as happy, but I feel that right now is the best it can be. The ceremony was about to begin. I sat nervously in the dressing room, constantly adjusting my suit or hair. Just then, the phone on the table rang. I picked it up and saw an unfamiliar number. Without much thought, I answered, but the line was silent for a long time. Just as I thought it was a spam call and was about to hang up, a hoarse, familiar voice spoke. It was Serafina. Arthur, I heard you're getting married today. Yes. Hearing my answer, Serafina was silent for a moment, then chuckled sadly. I always thought the person marrying you would be me. Later I did marry you, but I didn't know how to cherish it. I deserved to lose you. Arthur, you said you didn't want to see me again. So even when I tried to use suicide to keep you, it didn't work. You were cruel to me for the first time. Hearing this, I sighed deeply. Serafina, when I was good to you, I nearly gave my life. So even if I resent you now, my conscience is clear. I know. That's why no matter how unwilling I am, I chose to let you go. She suppressed her smile, her voice lowering. At least Beatrice is someone who can make you happy. It's just such a pity I won't get to see you walk towards happiness. From now on, I'll travel the world. In every place I visit, I will sincerely pray for you, wishing you peace and joy. If one day you stop receiving my blessings, perhaps I'll have truly died far from home. As she said this, Serafina's tone held an unprecedented sense of calm acceptance. But being away from you, dying far from home, might be the best ending. Finally, she said, Arthur, I'm sorry, and I love you. Memories suddenly flashed back to the summer 10 years ago when I found Serafina. The young girl in a white dress sat beside me as we watched the orange sunset. Serafina suddenly turned to me and said, Arthur, I want to watch the sunset with you forever. The wedding march began to play at that exact moment. I hung up the phone and placed it on the table. I walked towards my new life.